Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and I remember as a child I used to be fighting in the console jihad back in the day, okay? Team Xbox was where I was standing. And while my contemporaries were fighting on the other side of the aisle in Team PlayStation, the guys over at the Nintendo Wii side usually just sat down and played WarioWare or Legend of Zelda, whatever the heck they really... Mario Galaxy 2, whatever you call it. But ladies and gentlemen, things are different now. GameStop has shown a photo, totally not AI generated, obviously, with good old Master Chief standing next to President Trump. And the response was, President Trump presides over the end of the 20-year console war. To which GameStop declares the wars are over. For the past 2 decades, the global gaming community has been engaged in an ongoing and increasingly petty conflict. You know, it used to be a lot before. Let's not get into things like the bit wars back in the day. Okay, 32-bit versus 16-bit versus 8-bit. Who's got the most bits? Whereas said conflict originated in the early 2000s with the release of the Halo combat, fuck GameStop, okay? They don't even know gaming history, all right? How are you forgetting Nintendo and Sega, dog? How are you gonna forget the actual console war, all right? God damn! Halo Campaign Evolved is officially coming to PlayStation in 2026. Now, of course, this is the end of the console war, so again, to show you what's actually been going on, Halo has gotten a second remake, the first Halo, actually. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing over here is not in fact a cutscene. This is apparently real-time gameplay of Halo Campaign Evolved. Now, I played the Halo campaign pretty religiously for the last, 20 years that it's been out. And just a few days ago, I actually played through Halo without even knowing that this remake was going to be a thing. And I'll tell you right now, it's one of the games that always stands the test of time. Like, it is one of the most cohesive, it is one of the best aged first-person shooters that anybody could play through. Now, obviously, Halo Campaign Evolved looks pretty damn good. Obviously, compared to a 360 game, and even the, that was the first remake, Halo, the Anniversary Edition back in the day. But yeah, it looks all right. It looks good. You know, they added, I guess, sprinting for the people that enjoy sprinting, which I guess the Halo community is pretty split on. Okay, there's a lot of people that don't believe Master Chief should be able to run back then, and there's some people that think, I don't give a fuck. To me, I really don't care either. But there's a lot of points in this map that have not been adjusted for the fact that Master Chief can just sprint around. There are a regulation change when it comes to the assault rifle. Somehow, we have gone down from extended magazines to 32-round magazines. Don't know why that is, but it is what it is. Overall, to me, this looks like a Halo Infinite asset flip, and I'm not even going to try to hide that. It looks good. It just looks like Halo fucking Infinite, okay? That's pretty much the only vibe that I'm getting. Now, am I excited for an actual remake of the original Halo? If it doesn't come with the multiplayer, if it doesn't come with Firefight, if it doesn't come with Forge, I'm not going to really give that much of a shit about this, okay? Xbox used to be an actual brand that I think really people cared about. And, to give you a little bit of history, it didn't come out of nowhere. Back in 2001, when you had Bill Gates and The Rock showcasing the original Xbox on stage for the entire world to see, it really was a console that changed, I would say, everything. It was a pretty domineering force. Now, back in the day, I used to own a PlayStation 2, so I used to play games like GTA San Andreas, had a pretty good time with it. But the Xbox was absolutely a cut above, performance-wise, compared to the PlayStation 2. And nowhere was it more evident than just the multi-platform games even, right? Like back in the day when I played Splinter Cell Chaos Theory for the first time, it was on the PlayStation 2. It was the first actual glimpse that I had of one of my favorite stealth games. And then down the road, I ended up actually playing it on PC, which was the Xbox version. And that version was so much different. It looked so much visually better. The maps themselves, instead of being sectioned off because of the PlayStation 2's memory limits, they were absolutely it was a different game. And that's where it really felt like if you owned an Xbox, you had an experience, at least for the multi-platforms, far better. Even the original Grand Theft Auto trilogy is much better played if you were to play it on original systems to just rock it on the Xbox. And of course, let's not forget how impressive the modding community for the original Xbox even is. I mean, to this day, you can still play, pretty much any of your favorite media on a modern or like an original Xbox. There's people still doing hardware mods to this day. In fact, the community behind the original Xbox Live has fought tooth and nail to preserve the original Xbox Live through a project called Insignia, where if you ever wanted to play the OG Halo 2, you can actually play it through Insignia with actual hardware and emulation as well. So of course, down the road, it wasn't just this reveal, it was also the Xbox 360. Now, one of the first reveals that I saw for this was a game called Full Auto, which I remember back in the day when I was growing up, right? Literally going from a PlayStation 2 and seeing this, I was like, graphics ain't gonna get much better. Like we've literally peaked as a species. And of course, obviously with ray tracing and things like that, graphics always can get better. But this was I think the last time when visuals really were generationally different from the past console generation, right? And of course, it wasn't just this game. The big piece of software that really cemented the Xbox 360, in my opinion, was a game known as Halo 3. Now, if you grew up playing Halo 3 at all, even if you were playing it at a friend's house or you actually owned an Xbox 360, it was really a game that changed, I would say, gaming. Really, the hype behind it was insane. The game was perfect. It really was just absolutely a perfect experience. It had a decent campaign that you could play cooperatively with your friends or with somebody that you kidnapped, put to your side, played split screen. Remember when that was a thing? Remember when 343 Industries was going and saying, yeah, going into the future, split screen is definitely going to be a thing.
The multiplayer launch of MCC, or when we didn't put split screen in with Halo 5, I think it's incredibly painful for the community and for us. You know, I think it erodes trust with the community, as the community is part of our world building. A lot of learnings from that, and I would say for any FPS going out forward, we will always have split screen in going forward, but painful learnings.
Never really was a thing, was it? I really worked towards it. Fuck 343. And then, of course, you also had a perfect multiplayer on top of it. Everything was there day one. All the playlists worked. You had the ability to create your own maps day one through Forge. You had the ability to watch your matches, watch all your content in the theater replay, make your machinimas. Super duper easy. A feature that worked back in 2007? Nowadays, if 343 tries launching with the theater mode in Halo Infinite, that shit absolutely craps itself. This was a time when I think gaming, when you went out to the store and bought a $60 game, you actually did end up getting $60 worth of real game. It's crazy to think people are always like, why are you never excited about things like Halo Muda? It's because, here, I'll give you an example. This is a game called Halo Reach. I remember picking this game up physically, and it's got a whole manual and everything. Back when video games had an entire manual, they gave you something that you could actually read. You know what I mean? Something with actual pictures and stuff. Actual value put into the physical media. And then of course, they didn't hide behind giving you, whatever cosmetic you wanted with your little Xbox Live codes. But see this disc contains an entire game. And the way that I know this is for this video, I backed this up through my actual system and ran it in an emulator called Xenia. And the original launch version of Halo Reach had the entire campaign. It had the multiplayer completely on release. It had Forge mode with all of its additions. It had theater. It even had Firefight, which was the best firefight the series, in my opinion, has actually ever had. All of this day one that you could play with your friends with an internet connection or just locally and even split screen with just people offline, okay? Nowadays, if 343 even considers doing that shit, it literally is just a lost cause, okay? Nowadays, you can't even get an entire Xbox game on a disc. Back in the day, buying Skyrim Legendary, they used to just give you these 2 discs with the actual DLC that you could even share with your friends the entire time. Now, you can't even pick up the physical version of Outer Wilds without it requiring the internet, even though the game itself can just fit on a disc. So there's a lot of reasons why I don't have a lot of faith in things like Halo going forward. Now again, I think Halo Campaign Evolved can be great if they just actually decide to have, maybe some multiplayer toss with it, which they probably still could. Surely shouldn't be a full $80 experience, $70, whatever the prices are these days. And, if you're going to want people to stick around, maybe adding in things like Firefight, Forge, these are all things that, especially for the first time in gaming history, if PlayStation players are actually given the chance to play Halo now, which is so insane. Halo is now on PlayStation. The war is done and dusted. It's over. Okay, Echo 419, don't even bother picking me up. The Sony ponies have it too. It's over. And the console wars are pretty much done and dusted. I think at this point, Xbox pretty much knows that, nobody's buying the next generation hardware. And even when it comes to Xbox, the next Xbox is supposed to be this premium experience that gives you the full power of the Windows PC gaming platform. And no multiplayer paywall. Now, I have a little theory for this. I've said this for years. The best thing Microsoft can do is sell you an Xbox Series X that allows you to split it up inside, just install Windows on a separate partition and just use it like a gaming PC. So players could have access to Steam, Epic Games, games for Windows, all of their shit just on one box, okay? With an easy-to-use console interface for people that just wanted an easy-to-use console interface. And they've kind of done that. They've introduced the Xbox Rogue Ally X, which actually has a special version of Windows 11 where they allow you to basically unload 2 gigabytes worth of bloat just to get extra performance on a device. And I don't own one. I've used a friend's, and it's a pretty decent device, although it ain't beating the Steam Deck, in my opinion, anytime soon. Ultimately, I see Microsoft trying to maybe turn Xbox more into a software platform and turn the actual hardware, if they're choosing to sell it down the road, more into, I guess, a pre-built computer with the Xbox branding attached, which I think would be cool. I think it could be fine. I think it's just more of a showcase that Xbox knows that they're never going to compete with PlayStation or Nintendo in the space. So you might as well cater to a group of people that, I guess, prefer a more open console platform. Which I think that's really a cool selling point. And if Xbox does it, is Xbox technically dead then? I mean, sure, in terms of console gaming, they're very dead. But I think the product that they sell could be very appealing to people that ultimately, at the end of the day, probably want to get into things like PC gaming. But maybe they just want like a really good pre-built gaming computer, which I think Xbox could easily provide out of the box. And to give people the extra choice of having Windows OS run as a PC is just an extra boon, right? Like imagine people who want to get into things like PC gaming and, instead of building their own computer and installing their own operating system, they can just go to a Walmart, pick up an Xbox, go home, press a few buttons on their controller. It automatically installs Windows 11 and then they can just play PC games as if it was a PC, right? Like that could be an absolute viable thing. And the reason why they would abandon paid multiplayer is because Microsoft at one point tried to get PC gamers to pay for like fucking live gold. And, this is laughable. This is back in like 2008. They did this with Gears of War 1 on the PC. PC gamers basically took down their pants, spread their fucking cheeks, and took a giant shit all over, Steve Ballmer's face at the time. And we're like, yeah, we're not paying for online multiplayer. And Microsoft really tried fighting for this. But because PC gamers have a lot of different options, right? Like you can just, you can hold 2 fingers up in the air and say, fuck you, we'll go to like Steam, we'll go to Xfire, we'll go to anybody else. And so Microsoft lost this, and now that's why PC gamers, even when it comes to the Xbox software, don't actually fucking pay for online services. That is where we're sitting at. And of course, if Microsoft wants to, I guess, sell PCs in the store, this is not something that they're going to get away with at all. But of course, that just means that they're going to raise the prices for Xbox Game Pass and revoke or like sort of make up that cost somewhere else. Now to go back to, again, the console wars, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's just interesting to see the government has now jumped onto it. Obviously I was going to talk about this in today's video, but these are government accounts on Twitter or X or whatever going, get in, we're making America great again. You got Trump sitting with Master Chief in the Warthog, bro. God damn. You got Marty O'Donnell coming out. We gotta finish the fight, buckos. But I think out of all of it, what's really wild is, Homeland Security going over here. Vaporwave posting, destroy the flood. Join.ice.gov. Do we even live in a normal reality anymore when this shit is kind of like, what the fuck is going on anymore? What the fuck is happening in society? Where this is a thing now. The government is plasma posting. They're plasma posting. Although I do like my favorite thing, if Trump is Master Chief, clearly Commander Keys has to be Jeffrey Epstein, it might be. I wonder if they'll ever post the meme where people, literally somebody edited the introduction of the silent cartographer. I'll edit it if I can find it, where it's like they're flying in the Pelican and Master Chief's looking out back and he's like, whoa, is that Epstein Island? Yeah, I don't care how much the government plasma posts. Can we get a little update on those Epstein files, ladies and gentlemen? Can we talk about some of those crypto pardons that have been happening? And of course, GameStop has jumped in. They made Trump Master Chief here. And of course, JD Vance's fucking Cortana. God damn, that's just fucking crazy. Although my favorite is like how they got these AI like slop posts where it's just like Chief is 117, and then they've got like not even the right amount of come on, man, at least get like the intern to Photoshop in the right amount of fucking stars, man. I mean, that's your country's flag right there. Have some respect. But yeah, you know, Xbox, it really is just a brand that I don't think Microsoft has really treated that much seriously since the 360. Look, the worst thing to ever happen to this brand was back during the Xbox One reveal, when literally the first thing they show when they go up on stage is showing you how you can launch Skype calls and run entire like TV shows on your Xbox. When in reality, it took over, what, like 20 more minutes to get to exclusive game announcements. You know, the things that people care about when it comes to the actual consoles that they buy. Again, I don't think Xbox really has cared so much about trying to appeal. And honestly, I can kind of understand it. Like, Microsoft has never really made waves in Japan, or I think even Europe, like especially Japan. I think Microsoft really tried with the 360 when they actually had companies like Mistwalker make games like Lost Odyssey, you know, games that really did try to appeal to Japanese sensibilities and also the world. But, you know, ultimately they were never able to break into certain markets. And when it came to just North America, the fumble of the Xbox One was so damning to the company that, you know, really they just kind of handed off everything to PlayStation. And that's why, at this moment in time, I think PlayStation really is probably doing the best it's probably ever done, right? Like the PlayStation 4 was wildly successful, and the PlayStation 5, you know, compared to, you know, the Xbox Series system, which is what their direct competitor, they're doing a pretty damn good job at it. And ultimately, look, at the end of the day, I think Microsoft realizes that if they want to make money on their software, which I think they really have to, considering how much money Xbox has spent over the last 2 years in multiple acquisitions. At some point, they're just going to have to recoup these sales, even if it means selling Halo, which is one of the most important IPs. Honestly, the one IP that probably solidified Xbox's place in the living room. Now it's going to be running on pretty much everything. So yeah, the console wars are over because Xbox has truly just lost that race. You know, they have just become the next Sega. You know, they're still making games, they're just not making the next batch of hardware. And that's simply because no matter how much money you throw into the ring, without any form of proper marketing, without any form of proper sensibilities, you know, ultimately a brand even as large as the Xbox can completely falter. Because look, at the end of the day, it's about gaming, right? And, you know, even if you're somebody that doesn't get the value of exclusives because, hey, I'm a PC gamer, I'm happy that I can play PlayStation games on my PC. I'm happy that I can play Xbox games on my PC. And when it comes to a console, the only console I'm a fan of is like really the PlayStation, because at least the physical discs that I buy are filled with the game still for now. And they're the only, you know, system out there releasing exclusives that I actually end up caring about. You know, if every PlayStation game came day one to the PC, that might even be less incentive of me to even fire up the actual PlayStation than it is. You know, it's one of the reasons why I've always said if physical gaming even dies, I'll probably never touch a PlayStation or an Xbox or really any system, or Nintendo, whatever, because ultimately in the end, if we don't even own our games physically, I might as well just buy whatever new I'm interested on the PC. And even when it comes to just that alone, there's such a backlog that I have that I don't even really need to play any new game. I can just experience what I missed out on and die of natural causes long before I get through that backlog anyways. But ladies and gentlemen, the government is plasma posting, and Xbox lost its console war. And that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes, man. It's a wild week for gaming. It's a wild week for really anything. So ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like if you dislike it, I am out.